All right, welcome to Is Anybody Listening to Me podcast with Azar and the Meat. It's another coronavirus edition episode here. We are once again still stuck under isolation. Some of us may be under quarantine, but we're definitely in isolation, forced to our podcast through Zoom again. So unfortunately, we're not here staring at each other and sharing our beverage of choices with each other, but it's okay. We're making the best, drinking and sharing our stories through and staring at each other's face through these videos. But let me welcome my partner in crime, Big Meat.
What's up, Azar? What's up, fellas? So this is another, like you said, another coronavirus episode. And I got to say, my kids are driving me crazy. I don't know if your kids are driving you crazy. I got a long list of projects that I've been working on, and I got another projects. I just painted my kids' room yesterday. I got to pressure wash and paint my deck. I got just all this stuff that I've sitting there thinking in my head, like, oh, I got all this time in the world, and I don't really want to do it. I just want to just podcast and binge watch shows. That's all I want to do.
Can I ask before we welcome our third man in, since your ass has been retired since November, you're doing this all now? Like, why are you waiting till there's a pandemic since you've been home for almost 2 months anyways? Why did it take a pandemic for someone to say, hey, you got to stay home for you to start working on these little things?
Well, that is a good point. That's an excellent point. Well, you got Christmas and you got other stuff going on, and before you know it, it's like, I'm trying to look for something. I'm trying to look to get, other than trying to build up my podcast career, which at this point, is going very slowly but surely.
I think it's going strong. I've been investing more time in the podcast than I have in my professional career right now.
That is true.
By hours, time put in because of this stupid isolation that we're under. But all right, we'll explore your chore list that you're just finally catching up to after months of just sitting on them. I guess the piper has come due. You have to pay due.
But these are major projects that take longer than, a half a day. So
when the kids are in school, you didn't feel compelled. Anyways, let me welcome the third man in, Jarvis. Jarvis, how are you surviving in Middle Earth right now? And I mean, you're the safest out of all of us.
You would think so. Middle Earth is desolate. It's desolate, and apparently the coronavirus is not out here yet, but you would think it is smothering my house like a warm blanket. I am living. You would think I'm working in Mass General Hospital with the amount of restrictions and precautions we are taking out in Middle Earth. It's a lot, and I am confident that I am corona-free because of these precautions.
Jarvis, because I know you're a history buff, you're going to be like those Japanese soldiers at the end of World War II that were in the jungle and those remote islands that didn't know the war ended. You're probably not even going to know that the pandemic has ended. You're still going to be on lockdown by the time anybody gives you a clue.
Azar, my bunker will be the last to fall. That's right.
You won't even know about
holding the fort until the very last moment. I will not know you've all returned to civilization. I will not know that Boston is back. I need smoke signals to reach out here, and the wind blows the other way most of the time, so I'm screwed.
Oh, man. It's just the fact that delivering food and horse and buggy still is...
Yep. Horse went down the street the other day.
These podcasts are the only proof that we know that you're still alive, Jarvis.
It's
see you and talk to you.
It's good to be seen and heard. I'll tell you what, because most days
we're on the text thread, but I don't know if that's you. I don't know if somebody kidnapped you and is using your phone and pretending to be you.
It's
true.
The missus. Coronavirus precautions. You can't touch your cell phone, so you just have to stick it into a computer and let a program automatically reply based on what Alexa thinks I would say.
Well, the beauty of this pandemic is that it has allowed people to reconnect, embracing technology. I hear more of people having social events through Zoom and cocktail hours, and I actually have one for work scheduled tomorrow. We're having a what's it called? Not a cocktail party, but what is it called when you come in during the middle of the day? You have some drinks and they have free appetizers and stuff like that. It's I'm drawing a blank on what it's called, but we're having a social at 4
Like a
o'clock.
potluck?
No, not a potluck. Happy hour. We're having a happy hour. I'm trying to think of the word. It was a happy hour. I've been so locked up in my house that I'm forgetting basic things now. What things are
So
called.
living in Middle Earth and working in education, you know that now we're out until May 4th. So I have no reason to leave Middle Earth to go back to civilization.
Mhm.
And I was on a conference call yesterday morning with my cohort of people in Lowell. And they actually, to talk about what they were doing, the same night that we had a Pictionary battle through Zoom, my coworkers mentioned the Zoom bar room experience, and each one of them in their own group of social friends got together on Zoom to have drinks like this with each other. So it's really becoming a thing, the Zoom bar room.
Yeah. So it's basically, if you have a drinking problem, there's no really no way to escape it now. Like now you can just maintain your drinking problem using technology, keeping that excuse to drink. There's no escaping it now.
It just removes your ability to be an alcoholic and drinking alone. You get somebody staring at you.
Well, the good thing is, too, is that the number of drunk driving has to go down thanks to this technology.
Oh,
why,
absolutely.
why go drink and drive when you could just sit in Zoom and get wasted at home and stumble up to your bedroom with the spins?
That's fantastic.
I got to admit, it was a lot more fun than I had anticipated.
But again, grown
There were
men
10 of us.
grown men in the middle of the night are compelled, let's play Pictionary.
I can't believe how many people were on that. I had 3 rows of people on the Zoom window here. It was just like so many people.
It's just take
And
it to a whole
Azar,
new level.
You missed it, Azar, but like there were 10 of us on there, including R3. And I got to tell you, there was a would you call it a David Allen Boucher sound quality to him?
Yes, it was definitely David.
He had this mic, and it was, I don't know where he got this mic, but every time he talked, he just overpowered everybody else on the conference. And I think he was kind of speaking kind of low. I think he was being a little too loud. I think his wife kind of came down and yelled at him to speak. So he tried to keep it really low. And the way he was just talking, and because his mic was coming through so loud and clear, it was like James Earl Jones, like coming through the speakers.
Oh,
It was very soothing. It had a very soothing voice to him.
we should have R3 just join us for a quick guest appearance on this podcast today. Just text him and let him know to jump on for a couple minutes. See if he has a minute. All right. Well, most importantly, to get through this isolation, we're going to continue to make recommendations of alcohol. And this one was given, I'm going to recommend this alcohol. This was coming from a friend of a coworker who's become a friend of mine whose family is from Ireland. And we've had the debate that Meat and I shared our debate about Jameson and my dislike of Jameson. And we talked about Irish whiskeys to enjoy. So I'm not going to get into that debate, but she did send me a photo of a product that Jameson released. It's a limited edition that I actually was compelled to purchase during isolation. And it's called the Jameson Cold Brew. But this Jameson Cold Brew is actually pretty good. It's a limited edition. It's a blend of Jameson Irish whiskey infused with natural cold brew coffee flavor with a hint of toasted oak and dark chocolate. And I got to tell you, I didn't drink it straight. I'm not a fan of Jameson straight. I grabbed a little bit of Bailey's and I mixed it to make it look like a real iced coffee with cream. And very tasty. So Jameson Cold Brew with Bailey's Irish cream is a tasty beverage. I chilled it outside in the cold air like I recommended. So if you're looking for something, I actually would think it's a great like breakfast drink because it's got coffee. I don't know how much you want to drink at night because of the coffee in it. I'm sensitive to caffeine. I'll see how I sleep tonight. But if you want a nice pick-me-up, I'd go with Jameson Cold Brew with a hint of Bailey's.
Another coffee-flavored drink. I like it.
Yeah, you were talking about coffee-flavored drinks and how you like them. Like, with the coffee-flavored beers and stuff, but never had a whiskey that had a coffee flavor to it. I can't think of a coffee-flavored whiskey that I've ever tried. But it's pretty smooth. I mean, it will put you on your ass after a couple of them. I'll tell you that much. I've been drinking them today, but again, if you're in isolation, want a little pick-me-up, something different. And it's actually not, if you go to the New Hampshire liquor stores, if you can sneak out of isolation, I know Middle Earth doesn't allow you to have this opportunity.
Do you know that I have a New Hampshire liquor store, like a secret annex just down the street because the border's so close that I can sneak over, but it's treacherous. I mean, it's kind of like, when you cross no man's land there, it's a little bit like that, but I usually make it back. I got a secret route.
They're on sale. It's actually normally $32, and they had it on sale for $25 today. So, and you don't need a big bottle of Bailey's. You can buy a small bottle because you're just putting a splash to make it look like an iced coffee. See, it's like an iced coffee. And I was thinking, like, you could probably go driving around with this thing and no one know the difference. It looks like a real iced coffee.
Well, that rebuttals your point from earlier about nobody drinking and driving anymore.
I'm not promoting drinking and driving, but maybe you're on a morning conference call and you want to start the day off right with your coworkers. They won't know if you're taking sips of cold brew Jameson. Just letting you know. While you're in isolation, you might as well have some fun with it.
Is anybody listening? Podcast does not promote drinking and driving.
That's right. That's right. We do not condone the behavior of Azar.
But you're worried. So you have no problem promoting like non-sponsors as our sponsors. That you'll throw out there, like this is being sponsored by Uber and things like that.
They could be sponsors. They could eventually be sponsors. We're just jumping ahead of it. But there's people that actually do get together and they park, like they pull into a parking lot and they go and stand. They bring out lawn chairs and they bring their beer and they sit 6 feet apart and they actually drink the stuff. So, so your point about drinking and driving, that's still very very much could happen for those people that actually do that. So. But we prefer to drink and Zoom instead. So
yeah, I like it. Drink and Zoom. I like it. Yeah.
I'm drinking Zoom.
Yeah. And so from a cost, like, based on our scoring system that we have out of a score of 15, I would say from a cost, I think it's reasonably priced. So I'd give it a 3, an average score for a whiskey, an Irish whiskey. And from flavor, it's definitely got a lot of flavor. You can actually, when you open it, you can smell the coffee beans. And so I'd give it a 4 for a typical Jameson. I'd give it a 4 for a whiskey. And sustainability, drinkability, I'm not a big Bailey's Irish Cream kind of person, but I think you can drink these for a change of pace type of drink for the night. I would say I'd give it a 4 too. So I'd give
11.
I'd give it 11 for a drink. I like that it's different. It's not your whiskey you're drinking it typically straight. You're not diluting it with ginger ale or anything like that, something silly like that.
Who does that? You're
actually just adding a little bit more booze to basically give it a little bit more flavor and different texture. But you don't need it. If you like black coffee, you'll like the Jameson cold brew by itself. But if you like a hint of cream or you want it to give you that iced coffee feel, I would say the splash of Bailey's. And Bailey's creates so many lines of flavored Irish creams that you can actually change the pace and get like a cherry vanilla flavor, and you can really play a lot with this. So it's a little bit more versatile, I would say. So that's my recommendation. I give it 11. If you're in isolation, you want to try something different. We're just still only a few days from St. Patrick's Day, so we're still in the spirit of St. Patrick's Day in Ireland. Get yourself a Jameson cold brew. I recommend it. It's a limited edition, so I don't know how long it's going to be available. So take advantage while it's out there.
And go for a drive.
And then go for a drive. Oh, you know what? Pour yourself a glass, grab a Dunkin' Donuts, throw out the coffee, pour yourself some Jameson, put a splash of cream, and go for a drive. Who the hell would know the difference?
So this is the downside of doing this Zoom podcast is we can't steal some of Azar's Jameson cold brew to try it out. So we're just going to sit here and watch Azar drink this. And me and Jarvis are still drinking last week's podcast review beer here.
Yep, Masshole.
Masshole, and I'm drinking the Blue Moon Iced Coffee Blonde.
Well, you know what? I felt guilty. You guys went out and bought.
Azar.
You guys went out and bought new stuff for last week, and I was still drinking Guinness. So I said, you know what? As a commitment to the podcast, I went out today.
There you go. All right. Good.
I braved the risk of getting coronavirus just for this podcast. So.
Well, I feel ashamed because I believe I was the one that gave the tip last podcast that you can have alcohol, beer and wine at least delivered in this pandemic right now.
Now, I was confused because I think there's
So-
still a ban on that in Massachusetts, isn't there? Like, aren't they still arguing about it
Nope. Oh, yeah, maybe they are still arguing about it.
for restaurants?
The governor did lift the sanctions on delivering beer and wine, so you can call and order food and have beer and wine delivered. I got to double check because I heard it. I heard it again today.
Yeah, I know you can get it at takeout. I didn't know if it would be
I
delivered.
tried to lolook that up. Yeah, like I couldn't
so
imagine.
maybe the takeout
calling-
passed.
You can't just call any liquor store.
No, but you can get it from like a beer.
Right.
I don't know actually.
No, you can't get it from a liquor store. It has to be part
Just a restaurant.
restaurant.
bar?
But I don't know if they're delivering it. I know you can get it at
You can take out.
but I don't know if they're actually. You can get it from like Grubhub, and the guy will come with like booze and say here. But because I saw them on the news where this bar was making drinks, which I was surprised. They were actually making. I thought they were like beer or wine bottles, but they were actually selling mixed drinks in cups and selling them to you. So. Hey, you know what?
There's got to be beer and there's got to be delivery services that will deliver anything you want. I mean, there's got to be some places out there that have been offering this a long time ago. I just can't imagine. I thought I read something the other day that there was some service out there, kind of like a Grubhub or DoorDash version of alcohol delivery.
Well, I think it's
I don't
brilliant.
think this is just a
booming
pandemic
business
thing.
right now. I would, if you're not a high risk person or living with anybody high risk, take the chance. I think you'd be the most popular person right now taking orders. Go to Middle Earth.
Actually, you know what?
Middle Earth
somebody.
needs you.
You know what
We
would
need you out here.
What would be good for our podcast? Have you guys heard of Flaviar? I've seen the ads lately on.
Is
on
that something
my
from
Facebook
Lord of the
page.
Rings?
No. So it's
Or Game of
a
Thrones?
service. No, it's a service for whiskey delivery where they mail you like 3 vials of different types of whiskey like every month or every quarter. I can't remember what it is, and you could try them out to see what you like, and then if you like it, you can end up like purchasing the actual like the full bottle for it. But you get to try like different whiskeys in small samples, and they
Is that
just
legal in
deliver it to
Mass?
you like every month or so.
I thought that was illegal.
I just saw
No,
this ad.
you can do the wine. There's a wine service that's popular you can do in Mass.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know about New Hampshire if we're allowed to do that. I'd have to research it. It's not a bad idea. But you know
I
what?
saw it come up as an ad. Of course, it's on my Facebook page, so of course they know that I like my whiskey drinking, and they're it's like Big Brother watching. They know what I like, so
Your phone's
they show an
listening to
ad of this thing.
Well, you got
That's
to
right.
stop searching
That's
out
right. Yeah,
booze. It's all the research you're doing on
that's true.
alcohol.
That's
It's triggering. But anyways, let's move on from alcohol since we're in isolation and you guys can't sample it. So we don't want to dwell on the booze. Unfortunately, it's not as fun when you're not here and watching Big Meat drink my entire bottle of whiskey when he's next to me. It's just
I
something.
still owe you a bottle of peanut butter whiskey.
No, it's all right. I noticed that you gave yourself a bottle the other night when you were doing Pictionary. You drank a whole bottle. But it's okay. I'm glad you got to enjoy some screwball whiskey. All right.
It was so good. It was so
Yeah.
good.
So another part of being in isolation is you have a lot more free time to watch TV and stream practically anything. At this point, you're just looking for anything to watch because you're just stuck at home doing nothing. So Big Meat recommended Dark Side of the Ring, the documentary series that basically looks into the life of tells different stories from the wrestling genre. And I don't think it's exclusive to WWF. I think it spreads beyond WWF, if I'm not mistaken, right? The different episodes?
Yes. Yeah. It's just beyond WWE. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes into some of the earlier years too, right? There's some episodes from the earlier years, the early 1980s before WWE consolidated.
To clean up that analysis, it follows a particular story. So if the wrestler started in the old territory system and then came up through WWE or WCW and then
No, I
jumped
mean the
over.
episodes. There's different episodes,
Yeah.
like 6 episodes in a season, but I don't think they're all tied
So
to
what
WWE.
right. So what I'm saying is that each episode focuses on an individual story. And
Yeah.
if the story of that person follows different through the territories and then up through the WWF, through WCW, it will follow and jump and interview people from all the different,
Right.
organizations of
No, I
wrestling.
hear what you're
So
saying. Yeah.
It's about where that person
Yeah.
went, not per company.
So the one thing that I found, we can get into this, because it's actually very interesting. If you liked wrestling as a kid, if you're someone that grew up in the 80s or 90s, or even if someone in the more modern wrestling right now, it's actually interesting. I watched the first couple episodes, one with Macho Man and then one with Bret Hart. And one thing that I took away is that the pedigree that these guys had, like Bret Hart's family was a wrestling family, and they had in Canada
Stampede Wrestling.
Yeah, Stampede Wrestling. And were they the owners of that? It sounded like his dad.
Stu Hart was the promoter, which is the owner of the wrestling.
Yeah. So then you have that, and then you had Macho Man's family is another pedigree. And when you were watching it as a kid, you didn't realize how deep
everybody knew each other.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I was shocked, even when I watched the HBO documentary on Andre the Giant, how tied in everybody is, and just amazing the story of what Vince McMahon actually did and bringing it all together. You just didn't realize how regionalized it was. And then you just think of these guys that were superstars when we were growing up were actually just kids that grew up. This was their life with their parents. And it's really an interesting story that this was like almost like their destiny. Like, I'm going to be a wrestler. Like, because you wonder how these guys got into it compared to now, modern days. But it's just amazing. Back then, these guys were all sons of names of, from those. A lot
of them were generational.
Yeah. And it's just when you watch those stories, I think that's kind of the takeaway. I was just kind of shocked about the story that I found most interesting. It was just the history behind how these guys got started and their family history behind it. But
sometimes it's not even a family member. It's just, a friend that's close to the family that's been kind of working out at the guy's gym or whatever. And he was just, as he was getting older, he was just becoming a better wrestler. And then he ended up being introduced into it as well. Now, today they have what they call NXT. It's kind of like the development league for WWE. Before that, they ended up just kind of picking people just out of anywhere and just kind of bringing them in and saying, all right, I think you're ready. And they just throw them into WWE and it's sink or swim. Whereas now with NXT, they have a chance to kind of spend a few years building up their wrestling and how good they are on the mic and everything else before they get promoted up to the main roster. But I mean, the Dark Side of the Ring is a good documentary series. And that's really what, if you look at the topic, that's right. It's the dark side of wrestling. That's really what they're showing. If there's a dark side to a specific wrestler or a specific event, they're going to do a show on it. And season 2 just came out today or yesterday. And this season, I read that there's 10 episodes as opposed to 6 from the first season. Like for instance, today's the first episode was a 2-hour, 2-part series on Chris Benoit. Yeah, and that's as dark as it gets. That's probably as dark of a story as you're going to find in wrestling. Mm-hmm. But they're interesting just to kind of hear like the background of it, and you bring in like old wrestlers. Like Chris Jericho was a big part of the Chris Benoit documentary, and he gave a lot of insight as to like his life and his upbringing and like what's been going on behind the scenes, and it's an interesting show. If you like those type of shows,
it definitely does. It definitely highlights like the first season, like you were saying, John, the dark side of the ring. So it's, the behind the scenes of Macho Man and Elizabeth, and we all know, I don't know if everybody knows how Elizabeth died, but she died really early, and it was a drug overdose when she was cheating with Lex Luger. Macho Man ended up dying. So it kind of like touches on that.
He wasn't cheating. Story. They were divorced.
Luger was cheating. Luger was cheating. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
actually, I don't know how secret it was because she was staying in the same building.
I know.
His family wasn't. So
right. Oh, it's terrible. And then you look at the Montreal Screwjob and that was really the tipping off point for the Attitude Era, because it broke a lot of that, like when they call it kayfabe, but that's like the act of wrestling, which is in front of the curtain, and you're not supposed to show anything that's behind the curtain, and Bret Hart freaking out, getting screwed and all that. We'll let you guys watch the episode. If you don't know about the Montreal Screwjob from the Survivor Series 97, this was great look at how it transpired and what the ramifications and fallout was from after that, how it created the Attitude Era and the Mr. McMahon and Stone Cold. who was kind of wrapped up in the end of all that. So, but the thing about it's all the stories that have like some sadness to them. And it was kind of sad to see Bret Hart go out the way he did. It was sad to see Elizabeth and Macho Man die. I know you guys didn't watch the Bruiser Brody run. He was never really big in the WWF, but he was huge wrestling-wise. And he was murdered. He was murdered in Puerto Rico before a show. And it was all WWF guys that were around there. And so they went into the whole story about how that was covered up and the guys just walked away. There was some other ones. I haven't got to the Fabulous Moolah yet. And what was the last one? I can't even remember what the last one, but I'm looking forward to covering.
There was the Von Erichs. The
Von Erichs. I can't wait for that one because the Von Erich, Azar, you know how you mentioned the regional wrestling? The Von Erichs owned Texas, and they are like the Kennedys of wrestling. And I say the Kennedys of wrestling because they all die crazy deaths. Every one of them has died in like a crazy way.
Yeah, I think even the way they describe it, the family, they say the family's cursed or something like that.
Yeah, the family's cursed. So Fritz is the father, and then you had Kerry, you had John. Yeah, I'm not going to name them all, but they're all dead. All of them, dead.
It's a fascinating documentary, even if you're not big into wrestling, but if you just knew anything about it, it's kind of like a behind the music type of documentary. If you like those type of
exactly,
just seeing the dark side of things, the dirty secrets of things. It's a pretty interesting show. So if you got time to kill, I'd recommend it. I actually got really into it again as kid that grew up in the 80s and 90s that loved wrestling growing up. I did lose interest later on, but it's interesting. Speaking of, like, we talked about the days of isolation, but the funny thing is there's no sports right now. There's nothing on TV, but I was flipping through the channel and wrestling is still going on.
Yeah. In the Performance Center.
Yeah, in an empty stadium, but they see their value in providing entertainment. So even through a crisis, if you want to watch something live and entertaining, there's still wrestling, which I found fascinating. Nothing survived, but wrestling is still going even during this pandemic, which is...
that Performance Center where they're doing it, that's when NXT started. That's where they have all their NXT matches. Before then, actually, another good show, now that it brings up, I don't know if you guys have the WWE Network. I do have it because every month there's a pay-per-view event, and like me and my son will watch a lot of it. They have a lot of great documentaries on that too. There's actually one called Ruthless Aggression, and it actually talks about the rise of NXT, and I think it was the league. It was down in Florida. I think it was called FCW. I think it started about 12 years ago or so, and they talk about how they worked out and they had these small little wrestling matches in like a warehouse down in Florida, and that's where some of the big name wrestlers today were brought up. Like that's where they worked out, and that's where, until NXT came around and they built that Performance Center. Now they have kind of state-of-the-art facilities and whatnot, but they did a whole documentary just on that, and it's pretty good. If you guys like those kind of wrestling documentaries, I would suggest watching those. I'm sure you could probably YouTube those. You probably don't even need the network. You could probably just watch it some other way.
I'm holding out on the network.
Do you notice that John's audio speeds up? Did you notice when he talks? Are you doing something with your audio? You start talking, and then it just starts speeding up. No, you know what I bet you it is? I think it's maybe the Wi-Fi is kind of going down, because sometimes when you guys talk, I hear you guys slowing down. Like you guys will talk, and all of a sudden it will go into really slow motion, and then it will pick back up again.
That's what you're doing right now.
No, that's Jarvis's normal way of talking. He goes really...
By the way, the other episode that I forgot to mention on Dark Side of the Ring is the death of Gorgeous Gino.
Gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know who that is.
No, I skipped over that one.
Gorgeous Gino.
Yeah, I didn't recognize
those. Yeah, so some of them are kind of like, whatever.
I'm going to watch the Von Erich one, though, for sure.
Yeah, they have some obscure ones. That's the kind of thing, is that if you don't recognize...
Well, obscure to us, and if you remember, I don't know, a few podcasts ago, it's obscure to us. Oh, when we were debating like the top 5 Mount Rushmore wrestlers or something, and I was arguing that Sting should be up there. But so a lot of these guys were back when the territories were famous, and the WWF was only New York to New England.
Yeah.
So the rest of the country had their own stars, and big names would travel and like do contracts, like Andre the Giant. He wasn't part of a territory. ultimately Vince bought him and rented him, and all these superstars would get rented out. So a lot of these guys were big elsewhere, and we don't know about them because the WWF lineage goes back to Bruno Sammartino and Killer Kowalski and the guys that stayed around here. We don't have the Midwest and the Southern and all that.
Yeah. Well, thank God for Vince McMahon bringing it all together, I got to say.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, because, man, it definitely does bring some level of entertainment. And now our boy Gronk has entered
poor Gronk.
into the thing. And I had a hard time watching his debut, and I don't know. I don't know. I know he's got the spirit for it. He's got the attitude for it. I just don't know how he's going to physically hold up doing wrestling.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because it is a toll on your body. I mean, the stories that I've heard people, even on like regular radio, they brought in some guys that were ex-wrestlers talk about the toll it is on your body. I just can't understand how Gronk, who's worried about his body in football, is going to be okay in wrestling. I just don't understand.
They'll probably control what his actual matches are like. I don't think.
But will they be entertaining then?
He'll probably be like a bouncer type guy.
Yeah, I don't know. When I heard he signed with WWE, and I thought like, all right, he was going to come in and all of a sudden start wrestling, and then they announced he's going to host this year's WrestleMania, I don't know how much wrestling he's going to do anytime soon, if at all. I mean, I think he's just going to come in and do tiny little things like that SmackDown episode. He ended up like pushing one of the wrestlers, and that was the extent of it. I don't know how much in-ring wrestling he's going to do.
He's not going to be able to resist. He's not going to be able to
train. He's got to train and learn how to, actually mix it up.
Yeah.
All he did 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, he was in a WrestleMania like battle royal. Like he was in the
but he was just like shoulder charging people.
Yeah,
that's all he did. Yeah, it was one guy. He just basically shoulder tackled one guy. Yeah, and so just to finish up on Dark Side of the Ring. So a couple of interesting topics or episodes for this year. They're doing one on Jimmy Snuka. They're doing one on
nice.
They're doing one on the death of Owen Hart.
Owen Hart. I don't know if I can watch that.
You remember he fell?
Yeah.
That was a tough one.
Blue Blazer.
One of them is called The Assassination of Dino Bravo. I remember Dino Bravo, but I don't remember him being assassinated.
Yeah.
So there's some interesting ones this year.
Jimmy Snuka, I can't wait to see that one.
He killed his wife or something, and he got off.
Yeah. And now he has like, what is it, dementia or something? So they can't.
Insanity.
Victim or something. Yeah, I don't know. Something to do where it's like he's untouchable now because of it. But yeah, some interesting episodes coming up this season.
That's good. Like I said, I'll be curious if we get out of this pandemic, if WWF and was it WCW? Is that the new one now? WCW? No,
AEW.
AEW. I'm sorry. If they get a bump up, if they're the only thing that's producing entertainment right now.
AEW is doing the same thing as WWE.
That's what I mean. Like if they're the only entertainment, I wonder if they'll get a bump up of people kind of like getting into wrestling that may have kind of bowed out for a while.
It'll be a weird. I mean, WrestleMania is in a couple of weeks. It'll be weird and it's a 2-night. They stretch it out to 2 nights for the first time ever in an empty arena. I mean, I don't know. It kind of takes away from the energy of it, but they got to do what they got to do.
That's a good point, because when I was watching, I think it was SmackDown, I was trying to watch it, and I was actually having a hard time because there was no crowd. Just kind of weird. It looked like a dress rehearsal. These guys are just so I don't know, but if anybody can pull it off, it's the evil genius that we call Vince McMahon, because he's just unbelievable.
Did you hear the description? It was like if P.T. Barnum and it was like P.T. Barnum,
Donald Trump,
and somebody else.
Yeah, if they're like the three together.
If they three morph together, it becomes Vince McMahon. I was like, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's amazing. I mean, if you think about it, he controlled everything. And to pull off what he's done, and he could care less about people's lives. He didn't mind ruining people's lives and use them and then toss them. He's like the original Bill Belichick. Once he is done with you, he moves on. He's he sees your time is up and he's ready for the next star. But anyways, let's moving on from wrestling from now. Let's go talk about other forms of entertainment. I forget what we talked about. What were the other ones we were going to bring up?
The Tiger King.
Oh, the Tiger King. I don't even know what that's about. But I've heard more things brought up about this thing, and I've seen on Twitter people saying I'm watching it, and they're blown away. But I have no idea.
It sounds absurd.
It is absurd. So the premise of it is that there are people in the country that privately hold big cats captive, and some of them are rights groups, some of them are private owners that have them on display that, agree or disagree one way or the other. It is the backstory about how all these people interact with each other, and this thing involves murder. It involves like assassination attempts. It involves getting mauled by tigers. It involves going to prison. Everything is in this wild world of owning big cats. It is unbelievable. If you want to see.
So I thought it was, when I first heard about it, I thought it was those two guys from Las Vegas that had the tigers.
Siegfried and Roy?
Siegfried and Roy, yeah. I couldn't remember their name. But when I first heard about the Tiger King, I was waiting to see their picture, thinking that's what they were talking about. And I'm like, well, who's this guy? Like, who's this guy that they're focusing on? That's not
Exotic Joe.
Yeah. So I was like, is this really about guys and their cats? Like, who the hell? But
oh, it's crazy. I mean, these people are weird. And by the time it's all said and done, I haven't seen the whole thing, but there's already been a limb ripped off. There's already been evidence of murder and betrayal amongst like factions of tiger people. It's wild.
All right. So two famous scenes were Al Pacino and his tiger in Scarface.
Mm-hmm.
And in Hangover, Mike Tyson had a tiger.
Mm-hmm.
Does Mike Tyson really have a tiger?
Maybe.
Is he going to be on one of the episodes? I'm just curious.
No. So it's actually funny you mentioned that, because a lot of the animals used are one of the tiger owner. Like there's like different, there's like a guy in Oklahoma, there's a woman in Florida, and then there's a guy in South Carolina. The guy in South Carolina's animals are all trained to be in Hollywood pictures. So a lot of the animals you referenced are owned by this other guy.
Oh, okay. I was just kind of curious because I remember seeing that scene with Mike Tyson, and I'm like, does he have a cat? Then you think of the most famous tiger scene was Al Pacino in Scarface, which, again, Hunters, Al Pacino, it all ties in together, just to let you know.
Hunters, how did we not? We got to... Oh. I get so much to say about Hunters.
Yeah. So anyway, I definitely want to watch it. It's on my to-do because of just all the buzz. And now that you described it and had people getting mauled and stuff like that, why they're tigers. Yeah. But no Siegfried and Roy. I don't understand how you have that show without Siegfried and Roy in it.
I just maybe haven't gotten that far.
Because didn't one of them get killed by a tiger?
Yeah. All right. There are 7 episodes right now.
No, he didn't get killed. Did he get killed?
Oh, yeah. One of them got eaten by a tiger.
I thought he just got mauled.
No, yeah, okay. Mauled. What does mauling do to you?
John, when you get mauled by a tiger, it's
a nice way of saying you got eaten.
No, I thought they messed up his whole face or whatever, but I don't think he died from it.
No, but in this, so it's not Siegfried and Roy, but one of the women fed her, allegedly, never got convicted, but fed her husband after she killed him, covered the body up by feeding it to the tigers.
Well, you know what? If you're stuck in isolation for a long time, I could see that happening a lot if people had a tiger.
You ain't kidding.
I can imagine Big Meat's wife wanting to do the same thing right now. He comes rolling into bed, spitting after a bottle of whiskey.
That's why I'm sticking a beer tonight. That's why. But I will definitely be watching that Tiger King show because it's been brought up a few times in the last couple of days. I said, all right, now I have to watch it. You know, once you hear it by 3 different groups of people, now you're like, okay, now you got to see what the fuss is all about.
It's definitely on my to-do. I finally got sucked into the dark side of the ring, but a part of me wants to go watch, just put that on pause because I'm so curious to see what all the buzz is about those tigers, that show.
Yeah.
So the Tiger King. So we'll have to talk about that and just share our thoughts on it and see if it's definitely worth passing on. It's got to be a better documentary than watching the Ottoman Empire. So. With the occasional side boob.
That's the difference. That's the difference. That's a docudrama. This is a documentary.
Oh, all right. So we touched on it a little bit, and we didn't put it on our radar, but we have to touch on it a little bit. So Jarvis caught up, got to see The Hunters with Al Pacino. And I was surprised about how the negative some of the reviews were towards the show. And I thought it was overall a good show. But some of the reviews are pretty harsh. And I'm kind of surprised. I thought it was very creative. And, you know, the main character outside of Al Pacino, the young kid, he's okay. He's not a great – I think if anything's a downer on the show, it is that character, which is funny because that's what they're moving forward with him, is the main character. So
can we announce spoiler alerts if we're going to go that far?
I wouldn't give up too much, like what the twist was and stuff like that. But I mean,
I feel like that when I watched it, all the episodes together, it's like when you watch the Rocky series, you get to like episode 5 and you're like, what, they bring in a new director, it's hot trash, and then they bring back, like, they stick to what the first 6 or 7 episodes I couldn't look away. It was what twist was coming, what character was going to get killed. You didn't know who was on what side. You didn't know who was helping who. I mean, it was just one big, and then the back, what do you call it? The flashbacks to the Holocaust. I was like, holy shit. Every episode I was emotional, like not emotional, but like I was emotionally drained after watching each episode. I needed to take a break. And then I get to the finale and I was like, huh?
Yeah. But, it's because it's not a movie and it's a series that they wanted to keep going.
I felt like the last episode was not even the same director, not the same producer, not the same story writer. It was like they just fired everybody for the last episode and were like, here's a lazy way to end it.
Yeah.
Azar, didn't I say that a couple podcasts ago where when I started watching it felt like it's directed by 3 different people, like 3 different directors, and one person takes a third of it, another person takes the other third, and the other third.
Yeah.
It did seem a little just inconsistent. And I'm a little with you, Jarvis, on that ending. I wasn't a big fan on how it ended. I didn't like that twist really at the end. The show really kept me through it all throughout the whole season. I liked it. Al Pacino was great in it.
I did like
the whole storyline. I like the plot. I like the whole idea of it. The whole concept of it is great.
I love the villains. I think the villains.
The villains were fantastic.
Yeah,
they were the best. They were the best part of the show.
I thought they would done a disservice in the last episode by just kind of being like, here you go.
Yeah.
So
that kid,
the first, you're right, John.
The hitman.
He should win an award for that because I was like, I'm afraid of meeting this man someday.
He is, and I think I used this before. He is like Ramses from Game of Thrones. Like, you hated him. Oh, sorry, that's right, Charles.
Yeah.
I apologize. If you watch the series, it's a villain that you get so involved with emotionally that you hate him, but you like when there's a scene with them in it because it makes the show so compelling. And when they killed him, like you were like cheering his death in Game of Thrones. So this is that type of kid because that guy is so evil and sadistic, especially what he did in that prison scene.
Yeah,
was just mind blowing. So that's what I mean. Like the episode.
So Azar.
Yeah.
As you so just a touch on that, as you know, just like when you're talking to Jarvis and you mention Game of Thrones, he'll have no idea what you're talking about. Just like when you talk to Mr. Roper about Indiana Jones, you just don't bring it up. He will not know what the hell you're talking about.
You're baiting me. You're baiting me to make a comment about Mr. Roper, and I will not. I have made a vow not to bash Mr. Roper. To give
For
him
all of our listeners who don't know this inside joke, Mr. Roper has yet to see any Indiana Jones movie, which is just
an absolute disgrace.
Criminal.
Yeah, that's like saying
that's why we don't.
Shame.
That's why we don't take him seriously when he comes to reviewing any movies. When you don't watch any of the Indiana Jones movies, then sorry, you lose all credibility.
John, you said it. I got to go back and give you credit because I don't want you to say that I never take your side. So I want to make sure that this is on record because you whine so much about it.
Let me just make sure it's recording. Yep, it's recording.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you say that Hunters was written by 3 different directors, it was like the first was written by Quentin, directed by Tarantino, and then
I said that. Did I said that too?
And then in the middle, they threw like J.J. Abrams in there, and they're like, all right, you can maintain this. And then the end of it, they were like, here's Michael Bay to just blow a bunch of shit up.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Like those first 3 episodes, it was
very
Tarantino-esque. And then J.J. Abrams is supposed to replace him. Like he did in Star Wars. Like he didn't ruin it, but he also didn't like do anything mind-blowing, and then just completely in a different direction at the end.
Now, do you think it's because I don't know many of Amazon's original series? Like I've never really watched any of their own original programming.
No, this is my first.
So this is like the first time I've ever ventured into using Amazon Prime to watch a series. So I wonder if it's them getting their hands too involved in a show's direction.
That's what it felt like. It felt like all of the corporate red tape, like the corporate people got involved on the finale, and everybody, it just nothing in the last episode matched any of the previous episodes.
Yeah. You know, it almost had like a restraint in the violence, because even like if it was on Netflix, I think it would have been even more graphic, because Netflix doesn't hold back on graphic violence. Like they
broom handle through the throat and getting chainsawed in the park.
Yeah, but they didn't show any of that. In some of the Netflix stuff, they would actually make you like see the person cutting into that person with a chainsaw.
You're talking about the actual like gore. Yeah, you're talking about like the graphic.
It was just enough for me. I mean, watching the blood splatter off, and I mean, I was good with that. Anything more would have gotten to like Texas Chainsaw Massacre level stuff, and I'm not into that.
I think if it was,
I don't need to watch the throat splitting open. I need to just see the knife go across it and then see the pool of blood. I'm good with that.
Oh my god, you sissy! You wouldn't have survived Game of Thrones then. No wonder why you didn't watch it. It's too graphic.
No, Game of Thrones is very graphic. That's right. That is true. Speaking of Game of Thrones, actually, I got to mention. Sorry, Jarvis.
All right, I'll mute.
You mentioned. Well, wait a minute. You mentioned 1917, the movie. I finally got to watch it. As I watched it last night or the night before. Azar, did you watch 1917? You said
no,
you didn't.
I'm renting it. I haven't had a chance to sit down.
So there's one. The kid. The two soldiers, the two British soldiers, one of them actually played a character named Tommen Baratheon in Game of Thrones, and his brother that they were trying to go and save actually played Robb Stark, who was also in Game of Thrones. Oh,
really? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny that they had that connection there. See,
I couldn't have been any less impressed.
If you watched Game of Thrones, you would have known that.
Yeah. Well, you're starting to see characters from Game of Thrones branch off and do other things. See more and more of their characters. I've seen more of their characters popping up.
Oh, I do too. But then again, the way that series ended, Azar, the joke's on us. We probably should have done what Jarvis did.
But you know what? Again, like how many shows end like where, like I think we were talking about it before the podcast. You know, we were texting earlier today. The show could have gone so many different directions with the way they were taking it with Al Pacino and stuff like that. Why they set it up and ended that way, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, all right, this is the first series. They just got signed for a second season of this. Let's just wait. Because maybe there was a reason that explains why they ended. Because it was a very strange ending. And to introduce the people that they did at the end, you're like, holy crap. Like, that's a big drop. Like, and just to end it like that,
yeah, but it was
kind of melodramatic.
It's how they got there was so BS. You know, the kidnapping and then they just appeared.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the dinner table, it was like, I'm so.
Yeah, but you know what?
I kind of like that. I like that very ending, though. I like that last.
Yeah, but
scene.
How they got there is what I really had a problem with.
They didn't spend enough time. They kind of rushed, and I think you could have spent more time. That could have been a season 2 ending and led up to that. You know what I mean? Or a middle. Like shocker or start the series. But again, maybe there was a reason behind why they crammed it in. Maybe it's the contract they had with Al Pacino is like, hey, we got to try to button this up because he's not coming in for a second year.
Yeah, but I don't mind that. But if the scene in the car that went off the bridge could have unveiled so much of that information, but then when the car goes off the bridge, lost it all in relation to the other characters. Like we would have known, and then it would have hooked us even more, but the characters all still would have been operating, you know, under the current pretense. Instead of, it changes the whole game because they put the guy they kidnapped right there. And it was like, oh, hey, by the way, now you know who we are. Like, what?
Yeah, but there's got to be a reason why they kidnapped him. There's got to be more to the story. But again, as we were saying it, you're stuck in isolation. It's worth it, though.
But Jarvis, you said he was you mentioned you thought he was kind of a nobody character. I don't know. I thought he was I wouldn't say he was a nobody character.
So he's not so there's only 6 hunters, right? So he's one of the hunters. But think about his impact. He doesn't have heritage to the story. He has his own subplot from Vietnam. He has nothing to do with the Holocaust. He has nothing to do with the Nazis. He was literally recruited because of his military skills by that matchmaker woman. And so like his connection to this whole thing is not like.
But do you think he's because? But like, do you think maybe in season 2, the reason why they kidnapped him is because they have some method of brainwashing him to be on their side?
No, you know what I hope? I hope that
again.
What I really hope is that he's there in that situation because he's related to them. That's the only thing I can hope for.
There's no way. He's Asian. He wouldn't.
No.
She said, "You look like tomorrow." I mean, the last line, I don't know if you give it away, but like the last line, like I don't know it. The way that the whole series was running. For him to be kidnapped there and not to be killed, like in the next room in some dirty warehouse, like to be brought that far to go through that whole like it just didn't make sense.
I think he's going to get tortured and give up more behind the hunters.
But then why reveal? Why reveal? No,
again,
they could have done that. They could have done that in New York. They didn't have to fly out of the country. Like, how'd they get him out of the country so quick? I just don't like
they're
any
Nazis. They got the power, man.
I don't like any of it.
Use your imagination.
But why would they do that? They didn't even do it to any of their own people. They kill them in their own house.
Okay, look. It's not historically accurate. This didn't really happen. So, you got to give it a little creative freedom to this thing.
No, it's lazy is what it is. They got lazy. And that's what disappoints me because I have never ever been emotionally drained from a TV series like this, the first 9 episodes. And then the 10th episode, I felt like I had like a moist sausage smack me in the face and was like, get out of here. I'm done with you.
Moist sausage. What a disturbing image.
That was a very disturbing image.
Okay.
That's a Felger and Maz reference for my R3 listener out there.
That's a moist sausage. All right. Well, I think it's a perfect segue because there's another moist sausage that just happened to New England fans, and that's Tom Brady. That's getting slapped with the moist sausage. So it's a perfect segue. Thank you for that use of terms. I'm going to throw a towel on that one. But anyways. So
when we reference back to this episode, we're going to say, the moist sausage episode. Remember that one? That's how we'll remember it.
All right, we're going to move to Tom Brady, but I want to close. If you want an intense show, I mean, no matter how it ended, it is an emotionally gripping show, especially when you go back into those concentration camp scenes and stuff like that. I really like the series, and Al Pacino was awesome in it. Just watch it to watch Al Pacino. He was so good in it. But all right, speaking of bad, going from good of Al Pacino to bad, Tom Brady leaving New England, which wasn't a terrible surprise. We started talking about it last week, or last podcast. And unfortunately, Meat got us derailed with the whole Matt Patricia being an offensive guru. So we ended up spending more time talking about that stupid topic versus the more important thing that actually happened.
Don't make me bring up Matt Patricia.
Don't bring up Matt Patricia.
We'll talk for another 20 minutes.
Oh, my God, the most insane. No. I wish we could have got R3 and just call him, drive to your house, and punch you just to end that conversation. But let's talk about Tom Brady because – the impact of that, I feel, is pretty dramatic because we were talking about it before the podcast. And for fantasy impact, the impact of bringing someone like Tom Brady, who's efficient, doesn't make a lot of mistakes, he's the polar opposite of Jameis Winston. And he's got now Godwin and Mike Evans, 2 stud receivers. Tom Brady hasn't had 2 stud receivers like that in a long time. When was you can arguably say was the real long, when he had Welker, Edelman and Gronk was probably the last time he had, but like pure receivers. I can't think of a time when Tom Brady had 2 pure receivers.
Yeah, Welker and Moss, if you're talking just the position.
Yeah, that's how long ago it was, right? That's 2008?
But
7 and 8. Yeah.
I didn't realize.
No, 7, 8, and 9.
I looked it up.
And 9 you can't really count because he was kind of like faltering by then.
That's
Moss
where they
was kind of
traded
faltering.
him.
Yeah. But I mean,
it was really just 7. It really
was
just the 07 year.
All right, so that's almost like over a decade since Tom Brady had 2 stud receivers with him, and he's got a good tight end in Tampa with OJ. I think he's better than what we've seen.
And Cameron Cameron Brate's not bad either. They got two good tight ends. They're both like 6'5".
Are they going to keep both though? Can they afford it? I thought both were up this year. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know.
I thought both of them were
on
up.
their rookie contract. I still think they're pretty young.
No,
I think they're only like 25 years old.
No, Brate's older.
Yeah, Brate's older. Howard's still on his rookie contract, but I think Brate might be in his last year, or he's signed an extension, or
either way,
he's there. He's there at least for the year.
It sounds like Tampa's going all in to have. This is the year I think they're going to put all their cards on the table for this year, and if they can pick up a good running back, which I was kind of surprised they didn't go after like a Melvin Gordon or somebody else, but anyways, yeah. But if you're going to go all in, give Tom Brady all the weapons around him and just take advantage of Tom Brady. But he claims he's fired up. He's excited to go in. He's going to bring that energy that maybe we haven't seen here in New England for a couple of years. Is Tom Brady, if you were doing the fantasy draft right now based on what we know, is he moving up on your boards compared to if he stayed in New England? Like, is he?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
So where does he fall? Is he now back in the top 5?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's tough. Top 5 is tough. Only because he is going to be 43 years old.
Yeah,
and they're both he wasn't the most accurate quarterback last year. And granted, yeah, they have Mike Evans and they have Godwin, who surprisingly I thought Godwin was actually shorter. He's actually 6'1". He's actually taller than I thought he was. But he got injured. Did Mike Evans get injured too last year? I just wonder if injuries might derail that team.
Well, injuries could derail every draft pick every year. So if you have to take that out when you're considering pre-ranking.
I agree. But I just think with those two guys, right, and they have the two tight ends, O.J. Howard and Brate, but who's their third receiver? I don't think they have any real depth at that receiver position. I think Brady's going to have a much better year.
You don't think Edelman is going to be on their roster?
I hope so.
Edelman's going to be down there fast. He's going to talk his way out of the Patriots and end up with his boy.
How much more salary cap do they have after they signed Brady and whoever else they signed? They must still have a lot more money left over. I mean, they could still sign some more players, but as of today, as of right now, based on their roster, that's who they have. They have Evans, Godwin, the two tight ends to throw to, and that's really it. It's not like their running back is really that great either. Ronald Jones, they don't really have any depth at receivers. I don't know how good their offensive line is. I think their offensive line got kind of beat up last year. So I'm not ready to put Brady in the top 5 category yet. Top 10, for sure. I think top 10 is where he belongs. Top 5 is a little pushing it.
The Buccaneers have $24.5 million in salary cap after signing Brady.
Oh, I was just pulling it up. Okay, good find. That's still a lot of money to sign.
Yep. Mike Evans is the second highest paid player on the team. I'm looking for Cameron Brate is not on his rookie deal. He makes $4.25 million. All
right. So John, let's look at it this way, right? So if you look from a fantasy, like let's put football out because we don't care about how Tampa's going to do as a team. This is all about fantasy, right? Right now, Jameis Winston, based on fantasy points scored, Jameis Winston is the top 5 quarterback in scoring in fantasy for quarterbacks alone. Mm-hmm. So he put up, 371 fantasy points. Deshaun Watson is above him with 371.98. So he's slightly above him. So are you really going to put Jameis Winston in the same category as Deshaun Watson? There's no way. Jameis Winston is just a hot mess. Now, can you imagine having an efficient quarterback like Tom Brady? Look what Jameis Winston was able to do. Despite all the turnovers he had, all the crap he did, he still put up all those points. Imagine now you have a quarterback that isn't turning over the ball and giving you more scoring opportunities, getting you into the red zone and actually turning it over.
Here's one thing that you're missing though, is Winston was number 5 as the top 5. It was the 5th ranked quarterback in terms of fantasy points if you use the Yahoo settings. Yeah. Mahomes was number 6, who missed how many games? 5 games, 6 games?
Yeah, he missed.
Mahomes is definitely not going to be, if he plays a full season, Mahomes will be top 1 or 2 quarterbacks in the league. You also have Drew Brees, who missed a bunch of games as well. Also, a guy like Kyler Murray, who now has DeAndre Hopkins, he's going to jump up the rankings being in his second year. All those guys that pushed up. And Winston, he had 30 interceptions. Wow, he had 30 interceptions last year, but he still threw for 33 touchdown passes and over 5,000 yards.
But that's what I mean.
It was
right. And Tom Brady has thrown 30 interceptions since 2014.
Yeah.
So you take those interceptions and put them on targets. How many more touchdowns? And okay, maybe he's not airing it out as much as Watson did on these like comebacks because they're getting whooped because they kept throwing picks and the defense, the other team kept scoring with short field. So maybe Brady's still going to average 25 to 30 touchdowns. He's going to have under 10 interceptions. He's going to throw for over 4,000 yards. So where do you want to put a quarterback that's 25 to 30 touchdowns, under 10 picks, and 4,000 yards? You put him in the top 5, top 10.
Yeah, and John, your list, I mean, think about it. In the top 5 right now, it's Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Jameis Winston. So Jameis Winston obviously won't be there. Deshaun Watson won't be because the whole team got blown up, right?
You're right.
So he's gone. Dak Prescott he's night and day. You don't know what you get from him year from year. And Russell Wilson, he finished in the top 3, but if you remember his season, he started off on fire in the first half of the year. He was nothing where he was by the end of the season. Like he really fizzled out.
He's the Julio Jones of quarterbacks. He has games where he puts up like 45 points and then he'll put up 6.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you look at his game log, his fantasy points at the end, week 16, 13 points, 15, 23, week 14, 10, week 13, 20, week 12, 11, week 10, 18. Before that, he was putting up 49 points. He put up 49 points, 40 points. I mean, so I don't think Russell Wilson is going to be in the top 5 either next year.
I think Russell Wilson has been as consistent as a quarterback over the last 5 or 6 years as you could find in the league. I think he's still going to put up big numbers. Yeah, he did fizzle a little bit at the end, but it was still enough for him to be there. No, not that much. I mean, he fizzled. Not as bad as you think he did. Not as bad as you think he did. He scored.
John, he scored up 10 points in week 14 and 13 points in week 16. We were in the freaking playoffs. He just disappeared. And in week 12, 11 points. John, out of 5 weeks, he put up 2 weeks barely breaking 20.
He fizzled 2 out of the last 3 games, but he still put up 23 points in week 15, 20 points in week 13.
23 points is your top 5 quarterback? Are you kidding me? That's what you want out of your top 5 quarterback is 23 points. You're not winning fantasy. That's Matt Stafford.
You could go through every single quarterback in the league, and you won't find, other than maybe Lamar Jackson, you won't find another quarterback that didn't have 10-point week, 13-point week.
No, I didn't say you can't. But, John, I'm saying look at Russell Wilson's start of the year versus his second half. If you average it out, I think if he didn't have that great start in the beginning, I don't think he would have finished in the top 5. He would borderline be number 5. He might have been 6 or 7 with the way. I
disagree. I think
he put up 2 weeks of 45 points.
I've seen enough of. Well, you could say the same thing about like any quarterback. A bunch of quarterbacks have put up 5 touchdowns in 1 week. I mean, I've seen enough of Russell Wilson that I'm convinced he's a solid, good, consistent quarterback that's always going to be in top 5, right in the running. And I'm not saying that Tom Brady, there's no chance that I actually hope he does. I'm actually going to root for the guy to actually do well this season. I hope he is top 5. I hope he's the best quarterback in the league. I'm just looking at it based off of what I am anticipating. If I'm going to put money on it, I probably wouldn't say top 5. I think that's stretching it. You're relying way too much on a 43-year-old quarterback going into a new system, trying to learn a new offense, trying to get in sync with receivers he's never thrown to before. I mean, if all goes well, and I think he does great. I think top 5 would be awesome. I'm just not thinking that's going to happen.
Who's his biggest threat then? Who are you going to say? Wentz? Wentz is not a threat.
I'm going to say Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes. I still think Dak Prescott. I mean, he threw almost 5,000 yards last year. If you got a healthy Amari Cooper all season long, you still have Ezekiel.
And that's when he signs a contract. That prick does not stay healthy. As soon as he puts his As soon as he writes his name on that ink, he's going to bust an Achilles. I will call it right now, before draft day, that prick will either be dead from coronavirus or he'll blow his Achilles, because as soon as he gets paid, that prick gets hurt. I am calling it right now.
You're
so true.
You're probably right, but that's ifs and buts. Jarvis even mentioned it.
You're saying ifs and buts.
You can't. Jarvis said earlier, you can't factor in injuries. You can't factor in injuries. So
when you have an injury history, yes, you can. He's got a huge injury history. He's got a flat tire.
Dak Prescott?
No, Amari Cooper is Captain Flat Tire.
Oh, that's true. Perennial turf toe.
You still can't factor in.
No,
we haven't mentioned Aaron Rodgers, who you haven't mentioned. Drew Brees.
You're just hurting Jarvis now. Why would you mention Aaron Rodgers? You really think he's coming back? You really gonna put your faith?
The renaissance, the rebirth is happening.
He is no Phoenix. He is ashes at this point.
The Phoenix is rising.
And like I said earlier, Kyler Murray, I bet you Kyler Murray ends up if you were to say who would be a higher ranked quarterback in terms of fantasy numbers, I'd say Kyler Murray before I'd say Tom Brady.
Kyler Murray still has some growing up to do, though. He does make some bonehead mistakes. So
I don't know. So John, I was very quiet because, again, this is an odd night. Maybe it's the coronavirus getting to me, but I have to say I lean more towards your side on the Russell Wilson debate, although I hate relying on him because of the Julio Jones-esque factor where he just disappears for weeks and then makes it up on the back end. So you want a quarterback to average, and I know, Azar, you said 23 points doesn't win you, but if your quarterback is averaging you 23 points a week, then you're going to be right up there with 350 fantasy points on the year, and that's really a high-end elite quarterback. And I think what we're going to get out of that is, Mahomes, Wilson, Lamar Jackson will be at that 350 line. And with the weapons around him, the same reason I think this is going to be a year where all these young bucks kind of plateau, and Brady and Breeze are going to round out the bottom at that 350 point total. I don't know what they're going to do every week, but Breeze in that dome is vicious. And Brady playing in warm weather, although he sucks in warm weather, so I don't know, I could be dead wrong. But with the Arians offense, with a lot of the routes that they run, Brady's either going to be exposed or he's going to explode. It's boom or bust. He's not going to be like Matt Stafford, where you're like, oh, Phillip Rivers, all right, I got 250 points out of him, and it was a reliable.
It's Matt Ryan. It's the Matt Ryan, right? Matt Stafford, Phillip Rivers season.
So you got that love, right? Brady is going to be either way below them or way above them. He will not have a medium gear at all.
So the thing that might be different, because you talked about cold weather with Tom Brady, a lot of times in the past, you're hesitant to win with Tom Brady. Like, how many times has anybody ever won the league with Tom Brady as the quarterback? And the problem is because in December, Belichick switches from relying on Tom Brady's arm to the ground game. It becomes more of a grinding type of games. And you end up watching Tom Brady, who, in the beginning of the year, could throw 3 or 4 touchdowns a game and then all of a sudden grind to maybe 1 or 2 for the rest of the season, for the last few weeks. Now that he's in warm weather all year, in the conference that he's in, there's a possibility you might not see that drop off.
So I like that in his contract he has offensive input. So he's going to put the routes he's comfortable with. But does that match what the receivers do? Godwin's the best slot receiver in the league right now. And so if he runs the Edelman routes, then he's not afraid of getting in there. And maybe he doesn't get hit like Edelman. Maybe he breaks these long touchdowns. That's what he does. So, it could benefit him.
Mike Evans is going to make him look like a superstar. He's that good of a receiver.
But Brady doesn't huck the deep ball up like Jameis Winston does.
But he doesn't need to huck up the deep ball. Look at Mike Evans. If you adjust his role to suit what Brady needs, Mike Evans is Brady just wants you to get open. And Mike Evans can separate and get open. He can be out physical. He can, he can out physical defenders. Didn't he make Fitzpatrick? Am I not wrong? Isn't Ryan Fitzpatrick? Wasn't there a year Ryan Fitzpatrick was their quarterback?
Yeah.
And
Fitzmagic
shined with Mike Evans. Jameis Winston shined with Mike Evans. I think Tom Brady is looking for that stud receiver that was just like Randy Moss. I trust you. You're going to fight for the ball. and I just have to be accurate and get it close enough to you, and you're going to get that ball.
So that's why I think Brady slides up to the 350-point range, 340-point range, and that has to put him in the top 5 because I can't predict Josh Allen is going to go crazy. I can't predict Kyler Murray. Come on, 5'9" Kyler Murray. He's going to get broke. He's does not have long for the league. Dak Prescott, the shit he's pulling in Dallas, they're going to as soon as they figure out as soon as Ezekiel Elliott's wheels fall off, Dak Prescott is going to be a joke. So he better sign that contract while Elliott's still running hard. I mean, Watson is not going to play hard for Houston at all. We have a better chance of getting Watson than Watson does have recreated.
And that might be a possibility from the rumor train that he might be out there.
I mean, Cam Newton's out there. I think Wentz is going to fall off. Ryan's going to fall off. Rodgers is my one half. I love Rodgers, so I'm not going to say anything bad about him. Derek Carr, I mean, you're talking Baker Mayfield. Tannehill got a gross contract. I lose all respect to Tennessee. Daniel Jones sucks. Trubisky sucks. Nick Foles sucks. Stafford sucks.
Quarterback play is not deep this year. This is the first year. Like Roethlisberger is coming back from a big injury, and he's old.
Yeah.
Like there are names of guys that I would say in years past you can say I'll let it ride. There's plenty of deep quarterbacks later in the draft. I'd say this draft, they're all the same. Like if you don't get the top 5 guys, top 5 or 6 guys, you can wait till the end of the draft because all of them are the same. None of them.
I mean, you'll get a sleeper like Josh Allen runs. Josh Allen almost got 300 points because he ran so many freaking touchdowns. He's going to get his head chopped off. He's going to be the next Robert Griffin.
Yeah.
You know, Jameis Winston's not even a freaking quarterback for a team right now. So
I think Buffalo adjusts his game though, because you're not going to need to run as much. Not with Diggs and the young running back they have. I bet
but Azar, I don't look at it that way. You can put Randy Moss on one side, and you could put Chris Carter on the other, and Jerry Rice in the slot, and Allen will buckle under pressure and scramble. It's not a matter of.
But his offensive line was bad. They would collapse, and he would have to run to set. He would have to make plays to keep. I don't think
their line was as bad as he was panicked.
Well, that's what I mean. They're gonna rein that in this year. They'll rein that in. That's something they have to rein in.
I disagree. He got too much success with it. He loves his teammates touching his bum. Good job.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. And it's funny because Meat always accuses me of being the Brady hater.
I didn't. I just chose not to mention him because
you definitely hate Brady. No,
but I am telling you he's at the potential to be a top 5. I'm rooting for him, and I'm rooting for him. So when we go to Tampa and he's playing. Or Vegas to watch Brady play. And you know what? With the Corona, we got to wait and see. I think Tampa might be safer than Vegas.
It's true.
To go.
I hope you're right, Azar. I hope you're right. I hope he. Like I said, I hope he's the best quarterback in the league. I'm tempering. I'm just holding out on my expectations on how well he does. Top 5 is a lot, and there's always 1 or 2 quarterbacks out there that kind of come out of nowhere that you're like, oh wow, like he's putting up huge numbers this year. It could be Matt Ryan. It could be, it could be. I'm just saying, it could be anybody, right? Matt Ryan seems like every other year he puts up like a huge year. Last year he had a bad year. This is his turn now to have a good year again.
With Kyle Shanahan left.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be anybody. Maybe
this could be Garoppolo's year. Damn it.
Dwayne Haskins.
Haskins. It could be Jarrett Stidham. So
it could be. All right. Well, it's for sake of time, we'll have to just table it. But
I do have to just say, to go back on Mike Evans, he's elite. He's a stud. I've always loved Mike Evans. I think he is.
Where did he go to college?
Receivers. Ooh. See, this is so. I will defer to you, Jarvis, our college sports expert, because that's what
Notre Dame.
He went to Notre Dame. Okay, I did not know that. But yeah, he's legit. He's awesome. But again, to go back, he's a little injury prone too, Azar. If you're concerned about injury proneness of Amari Cooper's turf toe, then you should be concerned a little bit about both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
He finally has a real quarterback. He doesn't have to kill himself to try to save the team by himself. So he can play with some level of caution instead of being all out because his team sucks.
For somebody who shit on Tom Brady's work ethic just 2 podcasts ago, sure has high confidence in him to get his work ethic back in.
I would argue he feels rejuvenated because he has something to prove. If he stayed with the Patriots, we were going to get the same shit work ethic that he brought last year. But now that he's outside of Belichick's shadow, he's got to prove, because he knows it, just like Belichick knows it. Their reputation depends on how the other one does. If Tom Brady falls on his face in Tampa, he's still going to go down as the greatest quarterback in history, but there'll always be the, yeah, but.
You shouldn't have left Bill.
Could he have done it without Belichick? And just like if Belichick sucks, and let's just say he has 3 losing seasons and then retires.
Which is going to happen.
Everybody's going to say, could he have done it without Brady? There's always going to be that. And everybody, and I heard this on the talk radio, so I'll give them credit on it, on 98.5 on Saturday. I agree with this. People hate Belichick so much, they're looking for any excuse to ruin his reputation. Even though the guy has the best career as any NFL coach ever, they're always looking at him and they're looking for something to say, yeah, but, you might be great, but you did it. You had Brady.
Because he's such a dick to them.
Exactly. So they're looking for him to fail. Or looking.
Well, I'll tell you what is if what we don't know behind the scenes of what happened, if this came down to, okay, you're either gonna, if it was up to Kraft's decision and he says, well, I'm gonna keep either Belichick or Brady, one's got to go, the other one can stay. If that's the case and it came down to that, he made the right decision.
He did.
Brady's got to move on. Belichick is going to be more for the long-term success of the Patriots. For Brady to stay, even if he was effective, 1-2 more years out of him.
Well, so here's the analysis. Brady wanted to play 2 more years, and that's it. So Brady's long-term goal expires in 2, maybe 3 years. And the last obstacle is to succeed without Belichick. That's the only thing he can accomplish. But he can't do it here. No matter who Belichick has, he is chasing Don Shula. So he needs somebody that he can set up to guarantee 10 wins for the next 4 years to catch Shula. Brady can't guarantee him that in that long. So Belichick was the right choice because Belichick has a longer investment to chase Shula.
And that's a good point. And to your point with Brady, with a similar point with Brady, he might have gone to Tampa because he knows that's the best offense for him to put up big numbers. Right. And he might be doing the same thing, chasing Breeze. Maybe he wants that touchdown record. Maybe
he's going to play as long as Breeze plays. And the only reason Breeze came back is because I think he wants to continue to push Brady. Because Breeze knows he doesn't have the rings, so the only way to stay in the conversation of greatest is to have a record.
Yeah. I agree. All right, boys. Well, this was a long podcast, and we're going to get the people who are in isolation complaining that it's still long, which is kind of funny because what else do you have to do? So now you got this for entertainment. But
they got to watch the Tiger King. That's what they got to watch.
Yeah, exactly. Damn it, I'm trying to watch The Hunters, and I'm listening to your podcast. It's consuming too much time. But all right, we'll wrap it up there. This was a fun podcast. It covered a lot. And I'll let Meat and Jarvis give this last-minute thoughts before we wrap it up. Any closing thoughts?
Jarvis, I'll let you go first.
Out in Middle Earth, send survival gear, send ammunition. It's like the Wild West out here. We had a woman commit suicide in the woods behind my house.
Holy crap.
Oh, my God, it's dark.
It's dark out here.
I'm never visiting your house then. It's just too
I wish I could fly a drone of toilet paper over your house and drop it.
Oh, that's comforting. That's Meat's comfort. I'm going to send you toilet paper. Thank you.
well,
not alcohol. He won't share any of his whiskey. I'm just going to send you my toilet rolls.
Yeah, I got an extra supply of them. Trust me. So, but maybe this will help you out. This is my closing thought is I did watch somebody on a talk show earlier today. I was just kind of flipping through and I actually saw him. There was right on the screen. It talked about the health benefits of listening to podcasts. So we are actually helping nurture the public, and this is we're doing it for all mankind here to help them out. Basically, was talking about how listening to podcasts, where I made a note here, 62 million Americans listen to podcasts each week. And what it does is it actually helps relieve stress and anxiety and depressions. And doctors these days actually recommend it to basically increase people's attention skills and their attention spans. And it helps release those kind of neurochemicals like serotonin and dopamine. And so keep listening to our podcast. It will get you through this this coronavirus outbreak. It will help you with any depression or stress or anything that you're going under. So definitely listen to more podcasts, especially ours.
You're such a jackass. When I asked you, hey, Meat and I welcome you, why don't you just open with that at the beginning?
I wanted
that's
to.
That's at the beginning of a public service announcement, and that way, because we went long,
we have no more listeners.
Yeah, this justifies. Keep listening, guys. It's good for your health.
I want to save it for my closing thoughts so I can take all the credit.
So, you know what? Keep your toilet paper and your closing thoughts, you bastard. All right. So we'll wrap it up right there.
Keep talking. I'm going to send another kind of drone over your houses.
Azar has the anti-aircraft equipment from his uncles in Iran.
I'll drop used toilet paper.
All right. Listen, you can follow us on Apple Podcasts. You can follow us on SoundCloud, and you can follow us on YouTube. And now, we forgot to mention this last week, we are on Twitter. You can follow us at Azar in the Meat. And we're uploading photos, and I'll be sending a picture of the Jameson cold brew. So if you want to keep that photo, if you're trying to go to the store and try to remember what we talked about, you can just look up at Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter and see that. So other than that, boys, until next time.